Hello boys and girls, welcome to Science and Daily Life. I am Sir Zamin.
And I am Miss Riemann.
Students, today we have a fun and exciting lesson for you. It is filled with lots of poems and story. So do sit back, do enjoy, and let's learn, have fun learning. In our previous lesson, we would have looked at matter. Today, we will continue.
Now, boys and girls, today we'll be looking at the states of matter. We're going to also identify the arrangement of particles in solid, liquids, and gas, and we're going to discuss atoms. Now, let's talk a little bit about states of matter. What is states of matter? It is basically one form of matter, such as a solid, a liquid, or gas.
Boys and girls, just think of a bottle with water inside. That plastic bottle with water has all three states right there. The plastic bottle being the solid, the water inside being the liquid, and the little space being gas. Solid, liquid, and gas are all around us. So let us look at the definition and some examples of these three states. Firstly, solid. Solid has a fixed shape and a fixed volume. For example, a wooden block. The amount of space it takes up always remains the same. Even if you move it from point A to point B, that remains the same. Secondly, liquid. Liquid has a fixed volume, but not a fixed shape. It would take the shape of whatever container you pour it into.
Now, boys and girls, some examples of liquid would be vinegar, water, and milk. Now, let us talk a little bit about gas. Gas has no fixed volume or shape. What are some examples of gases around us? We have helium in some balloons. We also have the air around us. And we know when we're cooking as well, there is steam or vapor being given off. Now, boys and girls, I urge you, can you list some solids, liquids, and gases that we did not list today? Can you look around you and tell us if maybe the item next to you is a solid? Is it a liquid or is it a gas? Are you having a glass of water in your hand right now? It is a solid, there is liquid inside of that cup, and then there's gases all around you. Let us take a look at how the particles are packed in a solid, in a liquid, and in a gas.
In a solid, boys and girls, the particles are closely packed. In a liquid, the particles move enough to slide past each other, so it's fairly packed. Whereas in a gas, the particles bounce freely and rapidly. They would bounce into each other, which actually causes things to expand, right?
Now, boys and girls, turn your attention to the diagram for you to see how the particles are packed in a solid, in a liquid, and in a gas. Now, all matter is made up of very tiny particles called atoms. Atoms join together to form larger particles called molecules. Now, atoms are so tiny that we cannot even use a microscope to see them. So you can imagine how tiny atoms are. Now, boys and girls, turn your attention to the diagram. Let us take a look at what an atom looks like. As you can see, boys and girls, you have an electron. It is made up of a proton. It is made up of a neutron and a center-looking ball there called the nucleus.
Boys and girls, all atoms are made up of elements. What are elements? Elements are made up of tiny particles called atoms. When you looked at the diagram, you will have seen protons, neutrons, and electrons. So what are these particles? Mind you, they are referred to as the subatomic particles of an atom. Protons are positively charged. They are located in the center of an atom. Neutrons have no charge. They're also located in the center of the atom with the proton. Lastly, electrons. Electrons are negatively charged and they're located outside the nucleus. Let's think of a solar system, Ms. Riemann.
Yes.
Can any planet go to the sun?
No, they cannot.
So similarly, electrons cannot go to the center of that atom. It will always orbit it.
Now, finally, you have the nucleus. This is a dense body in the center of the atom. It is normally called the brain of the atom. Now, let us take a look at the structure of an element. Here you can see in the center you would have your proton and neutron, and around the rings you will have your electron. Now, boys and girls, we have a fun little story for you, and it is called the atoms family. Now, there's some atoms and they're found in Matterville. They're living in Matterville. So let us listen to this story very carefully. Now, in the center of Matterville, there's a place called the Nucleus Arcade, where two members of the atoms family like to hang out. Perky Patty Proton, like her sister, is quite large with a huge smile and that sparkle in her eyes. Patty is always happy and has a very positive personality. Let us take a look at Patty Proton. Here you can see her name is Patty Proton. She's very positive, and her favorite activity is hanging out in the Nucleus Arcade.
Now let us move on with her story. Let us look at nerdy Nelda Neutron. She is large like Patty, but she has a boring flat mouth and eyes with zero. Her family is very apathetic and neutral about everything. Patty, Nelda, and their sisters spend all their time at the arcade. Let us look at Nelda Neutron. As you can see, she's neutral, and her favorite activity is also hanging out at the Nucleus Arcade.
Now, boys and girls, around the Nucleus Arcade, you will find a series of roadways. They are used by another member of the atoms family, enraged Elliot Electron. Elliot races madly around the arcade on his bright red chrome-plated Harley-Davidson motorcycle.
Wow.
He rides so fast and no one can be sure where he is at any time. Elliot is much smaller than Patty and Nelda, and he is always angry because these big relatives will not let him in the arcade. He has a frown on his face, eyes that are squinted with anger, and a very negative attitude. Let us take a look at Elliot the Electron. His name, as we said there, is Elliot Electron. He is very negative, and his favorite activity is racing around the arcade. He's never welcome in the arcade, boys and girls. Now, let us talk a little bit about the Atoms Family song. And they have a nice little song for you as well. Now, boys and girls, this is how it goes, right? They're tiny and they're teeny, much smaller than a beanie. They can never be seeny, the Atoms Family.
They're so small. They're round like a ball. They make up the air. They're everywhere. Can't see them at all.
Together, they make gases and liquids like molasses and all the solid masses, the Atoms Family.
Neutrons can be found where protons hang around. Electrons, they surround the Atoms Family.
And there you have it, boys and girls, the Atoms Family. Now, boys and girls, can you tell us what are we talking about? We were basically talking about the atoms and all the little subatomic particles that make up the atoms. So, boys and girls, we talked about the protons, the electrons, and the neutrons, and we gave them some funny names attached to them too. So, as we said, we're going to move on with the Atoms Family, and we talked about that.
Boys and girls, have you ever heard a statement, be like a proton? Now you know what it means. Be like a proton and be positive. Don't be like the electron and be negative. Also, don't be like the neutron and be undecisive. Always be positive.
Now, boys and girls, today we look at the 3 states of matter. And we discuss the arrangement of their particles. We also talk a little bit about atoms. Now, I am sure you understand the 3 states of matter. We said it was solid, liquid, and gases. And we went into depth about the atoms. I want you to join us for another lesson on property and changes of matters. Until next time, I am Miss Riemann.
And I am Sir Zamin.
Bye-bye.